Okay, so I'm Linda Davis. I'm the Executive Director of Families Against Narcotics. I had been working in this field for about 15 years now. I got involved back when I was a sitting judge. I saw an onslaught of young people that were coming into my courtroom that had never been in trouble before and were all of a sudden being hooked to heroin and opiates through pain medications. It was alarming. I lived next door to a police officer that we talked over the fence all the time, and she was constantly telling me about the number of overdoses of young people in our community that she was responding to. We had two 17-year-old young men who died back to back within a 30-day period of time of one another of a heroin overdose, which is something that we had never seen in our community. And then I found out right before my daughter's senior year that she too was addicted to heroin. She had had a knee surgery in the summer, was a straight-A student, an athlete, and the next 3 years of our lives were a battle to save hers. So FAN was created by my next door neighbor who was the police officer. She just decided to get a group of people together to start talking about this, and we really didn't know who would show up or how that would go, but about 100 people, believe it or not, showed up. And this was 15 years ago, before it was politically popular to talk about this topic. And a lot of angry parents, a lot of young people who had gotten addicted because of sports injuries were prescribed narcotic medication that took them down a pathway that they never thought that they would end up in. And we just started talking, and there was so much anger in that room. And by the end of it, one of our young people in recovery said, "We're really not going to make progress if we just keep blaming people. We need to come up with some real solutions." So we started just educating in the community as a beginning point for what we were doing. And as you can see behind me, the wall of different programming that we now do. We really assist people that are suffering from substance use problems and their family to access help. It was one of the things I found tremendously difficult when my daughter went through this. It is not an easy system, and then if you take somebody whose brain has been altered by the drugs or alcohol that they're using, it's almost impossible for them to know how to access treatment. So we do the heavy lifting for them and walk them through it. We are a referral system to help you get into recovery, and we leave nobody behind, and there's no judgment. It doesn't matter if you are still in active use. We want to make sure that you are living the healthiest lifestyle you can for the choices you're making at any moment in your life. But our ultimate goal is, obviously, if you are seeking treatment, is to help you access that treatment. We all bear a lot of stigma around addiction. We picture what TV has taught us addiction looks like. It's always the worst of the worst when we see it, with people laying in gutters and on streets with needles stuck in their arms. And the truth of the matter is, this is a disease. And it can start very innocently by just taking a prescribed medication. People's bodies like that feeling. And we think it's safe because it's been prescribed by doctors oftentimes. And getting high and experimenting with substances, drinking, goes all the way back to the caveman day where they smoked the pipe. And in my generation, it was drinking, and it became marijuana, and then it became cocaine. But now the drugs are so potent and so powerful, and they're being laced with deadly substances like fentanyl, that experimenting with that level of drug use is taking people's lives down a path that they never wanted to go in. What's important to know is that this is a disease that is not a choice. Drug use may be a choice the first time you do it, but it alters your body and your mind. It changes brain chemistry. And it's not so easy to just say, well, why can't they just stop? Without intervention and without help, most people cannot stop using these very potent substances that are on the street today. I just think parents need to stop being naive. If you read any article in the newspaper right now, if you watch any television show, you see that this is happening to very good families. None of us are bulletproof. I am the last person on earth that I would that ever thought would be battling this with my family. We went to church, we had Sunday dinners together, we talked, we were a close-knit family. So if you think all of those things are insulating you against this, you're wrong. It's really important that you educate yourself, understand what is being prescribed to your children, talk to your children, and just really be aware of this is really trending throughout the United States, and we are actually being targeted by cartels, and our young people are vulnerable. So going away to college, anything like that where people may be trying to push a pill on you to stay awake, not fall asleep, being able to study longer, all of those can lead down that pathway of an addiction that you never wanted to have in your life. And nobody ever wakes up and says, you know what I want to do with my life? I want to be addicted to drugs or alcohol. It happens over time. It's done very innocently in the very beginning, just people wanting to feel good. I mean, we live in a world that's so negative. We're just bombarded with it. When you look at the suicide rates amongst young people, we don't give a lot of things for young people to be happy about nowadays. You turn on the news and it's a lot of my friends have gotten so they say they don't even watch it any longer. It's just too depressing, and yet we expect young people to process all of that. And what they're doing, unfortunately, is turning to drugs and alcohol as an escape from it all. Well, students are particularly vulnerable because they do. I mean, every young person thinks that I've got this will never happen to me. I've never talked to a young person that's gotten addicted to these substances that ever saw this as a part of their life. They were innocently partying or took a prescription that was given to them by a doctor. They never ever wanted their lives to get out of control. And I will tell you that if you are messing with prescription drugs, your life will get out of control. It's impossible to use the level of drugs that are being administered throughout our society right now. With fentanyl being laced in everything, all you have to do is buy a street drug laced with the wrong thing, and you don't get a second choice at it. So it's really important. I just recently heard the DEA did a podcast, and they were saying it was the first time in the history of the DEA that they are actually worried about their children, because this is so prevalent and it's almost being thrust upon us with all of this fentanyl coming into our country through illegal means. You know, it's being shipped to cartels, and cartels are bringing it in, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's easier to buy than alcohol is. So it's really, really important for students to know that you have bright futures, and the wrong decision just for a night of pleasure could really take that future away. So just really educate yourselves, understand what you might be giving up with the choices that you're making, and realize that on this one issue, maybe you're not infallible.